Invited parents to share with us some of their experiences of the last year as we now approach the anniversary of the shutdown because of coronavirus, which was the last day of school for Madison schools was March 13th, a Friday. And so that's coming up this coming weekend. And we just thought we would spend a Sunday worship just honoring these memories, honoring some losses that we've had, and we hope that it invites others to have conversations as you feel the need to do that. So I've invited Bethany Schultz, Anna Scriber, Rachel Lancourt, and Jennifer Eglin Beck, and Julia, of course, is joining us as well. So welcome, women, and thanks for joining in. So yeah, we're going to just start by sharing the memories of just a year ago. And I can easily start by saying one of my memories is that I didn't realize how serious it was until like the day before they shut down the schools. I mean, we were really kind of doing business as usual. And I know we had communion 2 Sundays before the shutdown, and we didn't take any precautions with the basket of bread. I mean, people could opt out of it, but even up until that week of that Friday, I don't remember, like to me, there was no on-ramp. It was just all of a sudden that Friday that was it. We got the news from the Madison schools that they were going to take, not meet. So that to me is stunning in itself, which also indicates how abrupt of the cutoff it was.
Yeah.
And to me, it's the cutoff piece that then we had to live into. So yeah, that was just even what I was remembering at first. How about you, Jennifer? Did you?
Yeah, I mean, when you were saying that, or at least Lila told me just the other day that she was remembering that Friday, right? And I don't think they even made the decision to cancel school Monday until after they were out of school. And she was saying that she remembers her teachers saying like, well, you might want to clean out your lockers just in case. You might want to take that stuff with you. So, they left school and for me, work that day, having no idea that by Monday we would not go back. And so it was sudden. And also, I happened to be looking back in my texts the other day to try to find something, and I had scrolled back to this time, and I realized in my texts with my mom, even 3 or 4 days before that, you could just tell that we kind of knew we might have some precautions coming up, but we had no idea of what, like you were saying, the cutoff. We had no clue that we were going to be cut off like that. So it was indeed, really sudden. Yeah. And as far as like some of my memories of early shutdown, to be honest, one thing I remember is like, especially during maybe that first 4 to 6 weeks, there were several times I remember sitting at supper, and just everybody being grumpy in a different way. And I remember just crying, just starting to just cry at supper, and then just not knowing even what to do about that, So and it did get better. We adjusted and stuff, but I remember just really strong emotions a lot of the time, that first 6 weeks, and not quite knowing, I guess it was just different because a lot of times when you have strong emotions, you kind of understand exactly where they're coming. Maybe not exactly, but you understand where they're coming from. You kind of know, maybe I can deal with it this way or that way, or how to move forward. This was not that. It was like there is nothing to be done about it exactly, other than kind of get through it. And so that was really, really tough, I think.
How about you, Rachel? Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, so I guess 2 stories that I'll share. One is that my family had a little bit of advance notice because my brother actually works for the company in Boston that basically single-handedly infected all of Boston. And so they had in early February, it's an international company, and they had people come from all over the world to a conference, including from Italy. And they found out that some of the people who attended that conference had COVID, and they infected people that were at the conference. And then there was another conference the following week for people in the biotech industry more broadly, and a lot of the same people attended both meetings. And so of the first 100 cases in Boston, 88 of them or something were tied to this initial conference that his company held. And so they went on lockdown in mid-February, and he's been working from home for a couple weeks longer than the rest of us, and so it was kind of on our radar screen. And my parents, when they found out about all this, they had just come back from spending some time with him. So then they were really paranoid that, if he had been in an office building with all these people who were sick, were they going to be the ones that infected Madison? And I was like, no. So it wasn't, they did not, get it. They did not infect Madison. But we were worried about it, I think, a few weeks before everybody else. And then that week before spring break, we had been kind of talking about it on campus because all the students were planning to go away for spring break, and not just home, but Mexico and Paris and, normal student spring break trips. And so we were they're going to have to shut us down for 2 weeks after spring break because we can't have these people go all over the place and then bring the virus back. And so we were kind of expecting the 2-week shutdown, before the college announced it. But I remember they announced it on Wednesday, and then the students started freaking out. And then it was over spring break that they decided we're going to be online for the rest of the semester. And so it was kind of like what Jennifer was just describing. The students left thinking this was just for 2 weeks. And so they still had stuff in their dorm rooms, their textbooks, and, had been left behind. And so it was really challenging to pivot our whole method of instruction, to this online environment. And, we were mostly doing asynchronous stuff because we couldn't even get all our students at the same place at the same time to continue normal instruction last spring. And so I was just looking at my lesson plans for next week and thinking about planning ahead. I'm okay, well, this is where everything went sideways last year. And so it was bringing up all these memories, just looking at my lesson plans and thinking about what was happening this week last year. And then, how the week after break, everything was different. So yeah, so that's what I remember from the early days.
Thank you. Anna.
Yeah, I have a memory of Izzy coming home and being very difficult to get her to go to school as a senior. And this would have been late February. And why do we have to go for 4 years? There's no learning going on. I was done at 3. I shouldn't have to go back. And then schools were announced as closing, and all of a sudden she was in tears going, what do you mean I don't get to go back to school? What do you mean I don't get to go see my friends and the teachers? And what about prom? And what about graduation? And so I really felt more of the pain through her life and all the things that are exciting for us. We rescheduled her graduation party thinking, oh, we'll have it later in the summer. And of course, that never happened. She was supposed to have a graduation trip, a gift to go visit family in Ecuador, where my mom is from. That had to get canceled. She still hasn't taken her graduation trip. I think it was very hard I think of that time as being very confusing because I was hearing one thing in the news, and then where I work, we work with schools across the country, and we were being told that we might not open in the fall. We probably won't even be open until fall of 2021. So I was hearing, oh, it's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. And then I was hearing at work, okay, we're going to have to cut back, we're going to have to do pay reduction, we're going to have to change our bonus structure, we're going to have to cut back on any kind of cost and benefit to employees because this is going to be a really hard time and it's going to last a long time. So for me, it was more the confusion of I was hearing one thing in the public and then I was hearing another thing at work and how high a risk this was and what a big deal it was. And it was difficult marrying the two.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of confusion and not being able to see into the future. And yeah, thank you, Anna. Bethany.
I remember, I remember following the news of COVID in China, like starting in the beginning of December, and so I kind of was really seeing it coming for a long time, and kind of was pretty aware of what was happening. Um, and that the last day that felt normal for me was March 8th. And it was like the last day that felt truly normal because you could tell it was coming and it was getting closer, and like that there would be things that would happen. But I don't know that I yet realized that we were going to be just shut down completely. And that was a Sunday, and it was Bell's Sunday. So we had a handbell performance, and then I had a performance in Mineral Point in the evening that was like a little art gallery, and it was such a fun event. And I remember toward the end of it just kind of looking around and thinking like there's like a buffet of food on this table, because we were already aware, we were being extra, we were doing a lot of extra hand washing, we were doing a lot of that kind of stuff, partly because we'd already been sick a lot that winter anyway, so we had put in place some like family protocols to keep us from continuing to get sick. um and but just thinking, should we be here, like, having that thought even on March 8th. And then that whole next week was our last week before spring break at school. And just every day felt weirder. Like it was like there was a swarm of bees in my rib cage, and it was just like fluttering, always like vibrating inside. And yeah, every day got weirder. You could hear, like, following the news, the cases doubling. And I was saying to my office mates, I don't think we're coming back after spring break. Like, they're going to ask us not to come back. And I was so looking forward to spring break because I had a different spring break than my kids. And so I was going to have a week off by myself. And I was like looking forward to it. Like, you wouldn't believe, well, you all would believe how much I was looking forward to that, actually. Um, and just realizing, I was talking to Fiona's teacher, picking her up from kindergarten that last Friday of school, saying, I may keep her home next week since I'm going to be home anyway, while we kind of see what happens. And then it ended up being irrelevant because they pulled the plug on the school. But yeah, those are the things I remember, is the anxiety and the not knowing, and the like, so it's bad, but how bad is it? And just going to the grocery store and trying to get enough food, and having panic attacks in the grocery store because it would just shake through the aisles just trying to get like anything that would be food for us for a few weeks. Um, those are the things I remember, is that, like, that buzzing anxiety, bees in my belly feeling all the time.
Yeah, that especially, yeah, those first 4 to 6 weeks when so much was being said that about it being transferred from countertops, and like you had mentioned, Julia, do you remember washing your groceries, and that intensity just was so unnerving. And I started to, like, it seemed like, and it's not true that it was every day, but every day we'd get something from the high school saying, that this won't happen now. And even the week before the shutdown, we had gone to Gabe. Gabe was in the concert band or wind ensemble band, and they have 4 concerts, or at least 4 a year. So there was going to be still one more in the spring, and not even realizing the week before that was the last one. And so never being able to mark the lasts of things for our firstborn graduating senior really took a toll. Right. And then also for me, not being able to have the mission trip was really, really difficult. We had some pretty amazing high school graduating seniors, and not being able to be with them one last time on a trip and celebrate with them. And a number of them are team leaders on the trip, and it's just so rewarding to watch them lead. And just, yeah, poof, it was gone.
Yes. Well, Theo was in 2nd grade last year, and my kids go to Midvale Lincoln. And so Midvale is the first school they attend. It's kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. Yeah. And so we had kids in that school for 9 years. We had a few off in the middle there, but that was our last year. And of course, it's the place where my kids went to kindergarten, first grade, second grade. We have so many memories of like, those sweet concerts and the, little plays and just the teachers who are so loving. And we didn't have a last day there. And, we can go back and visit at some time, but, I had been looking forward to that after 9 years, kind of not a graduation, but like a moving on from that and marking how much that meant to us. And, we didn't get that. And the mission trip was a big deal. I mean, that was, I think Lila, was sobbing when that was canceled. That's a big deal for her. And she's told me since that was one of the hardest things for her. And it would have been Sylvie's first time on the trip. And I was really looking forward to seeing, her experience that. And also, I resonated with what you said, Bethany, because we were supposed to have a week. We had planned it where Theo was going to be on a trip with his grandparents during the mission trip week. So Paul and I were supposed to have a week here alone. And as you can imagine, it's been a while since we've had that. And we were really, we just felt like that's going to be so rejuvenating. And then, needless to say, we have not had a week alone in the last year. Some of the same kind of feelings and mourning of those kinds of things.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, kind of naming these losses are, I think, just good to do. How about you, Rachel? Any specific?
Yeah, well, talking about the graduation. So Ben was in 5th grade last year. And so he didn't get his like elementary school graduation. And so it was actually nice because we organized our own thing. So there is a lot of kids that are the same age as Ben in our neighborhood, like in a 2-block radius, there's like 8 of them or something that were in the same class. And so we organized a little mini graduation ceremony and we have like piles of graduation robes in this house. So we put the kids in like, the one that I wear for graduation with the doctoral stripes on it and stuff. We just put all the kids in whatever robes we could find, and had a little graduation ceremony. We played the song and they marched, and so it was kind of nice just that even though there were only like 6 kids there, to have a little celebration for them, but it felt like they needed like something, to close elementary school. So that was one thing we missed. We also had travel plans that got scrapped last summer that were still kind of on hold. We were going to go to Ireland with Brian's parents. And so we're, maybe next summer, still waiting on that. But yeah, those were the big losses for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anna?
I was just thinking about one of the hard things was that not only our own losses, but every time it seemed like we were done grieving the loss for something that we just lost, it was then somebody else's major loss. And so I felt like it was our stuff on top of everyone around us. So for example, if we couldn't celebrate birthdays, you do it, but COVID birthday celebrations aren't the same because there's a tone of sadness in the air. It's just very somber. So even happy moments, you just aren't jumping for joy because you feel so badly for all the other people who are suffering in many ways way worse. I mean, you hear about grandparents who you couldn't go visit or say goodbye to because of COVID before they passed away, or you couldn't visit them in the hospital. And we were thinking a lot about Japan and the athletes who trained their whole lives to be in the Olympics. And we still don't know a few months out, are we going to have the Olympics this year? And if we don't have them this year, that means it won't happen for another couple of years. So 4 years total, they'll have to wait a whole other cycle. And so it just seems like every time it's bad for us, it's bad for someone else even more so. And so there was never a time where you felt like, oh, we can celebrate. In our neighborhood, Tammy, I know you've talked about this, you can hear it. There's someone that's playing taps at dusk every single night. And at first I didn't understand the connection. And I said, why is this person doing this every single night? And then I realized it's to mark and commemorate and honor those who have passed away from COVID every single night. And so the whole neighborhood for probably a mile, you can hear this. But it was a daily reminder of, well, beyond these 4 walls, it's actually, there's a lot more going on. A lot of sadness.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Thank you. Bethany, what's
There's shades of loss, right? There's, we have, I feel fortunate that we have mostly avoided the major losses in this year, but yeah, the things that we have lost are like, Leo was almost 2 at this time last year, and we'd already not seen my mom in almost a year, and it had already been the longest that she hadn't seen the kids. But she was coming in March, and that was the first thing that we lost, was getting to see my mom. And now Leo, he's about to be 3, and the last time she saw him, he wasn't walking. So that's probably one of the bigger ones for us, just that the loss of that time with her grandkids and of us with her. And we call them that stuff, but it's not the same. And that's one of the bigger ones. And I think, the opposite of having a graduating senior, I had a kindergartner who was in her very first year of formal education and didn't get to have a whole school year, and has now had more virtual school than actual in the building school in her school career, which is kind of mind blowing. She learned to read sitting in front of me here instead of like in the school building. All those things, like, it's just that's a big one too, is that lack of normalcy for kids that are just trying to figure out what's normal before things aren't normal. That's a big one. And then the other big one for me is concerts. I've been very lucky in ways that other people haven't, where I've had the opportunity to have a couple of performances over the last year as a classical musician, just with people who have done an abundance of research and like set up safety protocols so that we can do it in a safe way. But still, in a year I've had 2 or 3 gigs in an entire year. And that's kind of bonkers. And not just in the financial realm or the like employment realm, but in the, more than some other things, I feel like it's hard to separate that from who you are. And like being a musician is such a huge part of who we are as humans that it's like, it feels barren in parts of you that you're not having that expression with other people and on your own. So that's the other big one.
Yeah. So it is like this extra layer of thinking and analyzing, and feeling like I can't quite just be me around this particular issue. So that gets old.
What I remember you sharing that I thought was so helpful in regards to where we're all at different places, but sometimes there's a sense that we should also make sure we share the silver linings to make sure people know we're grateful. We don't have it as bad as other people. That kind of comparing just got exhausting too, I think. But what you said something about 10 years from now, you'll look back at this time. Do you remember saying that to me? Do you remember? I thought you had a great metaphor. I'll let you,
Ooh, I think so.
You said,
and I'll add.
Okay, you correct me. So it was like, now it's like, it would be like, I'll appreciate this 10 years from now when I could be home with my children when they were young. But now looking for the silver linings is like looking through a dirty window.
Oh, yeah. That in 10 years, all I'm going to remember is the good stuff.
Yeah.
But right now, it's hard to see the good stuff because you're looking through a dirty window. That's how it feels.
And one thing I found interesting is I think I've kind of had trouble communicating to Lila and Sylvie, who are 14 and 16, like that this is one of the two, like other than 9/11, like nothing else like this has happened in my life other than maybe 9/11, which was similar in magnitude maybe, but very, very different. And I've had trouble communicating to them, like, just how completely abnormal this is. And in fact, I think I told Tammy this story that we went to a gas station one day a little outside of Madison. We stopped at a gas station, and we went in, and you just get used to Madison, and we're in there, and then like 3 people walk in without masks. So we just tried to get our stuff, and we had to use the bathroom, and tried to do that quick and leave. And boy, we got back in the car, and Theo was like, "Do not take me here ever again. Don't ever bring me here again." They weren't wearing masks, and he was so upset about it. And then he said to us, and you don't realize, I think, how different it is for kids, because then he said, "Well, did people always wear masks?" And he's 8.5, so certainly he has memories where we're not wearing masks, but this is just so big to him that he had kind of wasn't really sure, like, if this was how we always did it or this is something new. So I think it'll be interesting to see, especially for him, how he reacts to going back whenever we can finally stop wearing masks. He might have a different kind of transition than we do, as having seen this as one small part of a much longer life.